going on, guys? Uh, this is our second installment of the Line Movers segment. And joining me tonight, we're going to have Kyle Hunter. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Ben. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. I know it is late for you on the East Coast, but you are a night owl, and we're going to run through a few of these games that, we see potential line moves and just kind of talk about a few. We're going to run through quite a bit, but, definitely dive deeper into a few of them as far as like which way we think the lines are going to move with totals and sides, and just have an overall discussion on everything that we're seeing on the board for tomorrow's games. And if anyone is joining us on Twitter or YouTube, you can head to Twitch to ask any questions about any specific games, and we're going to try to answer some of your questions too if you have specific games that you want to run through. So I think you're like me, Kyle. NBA wise, we'll bet here and there, but we're pretty low volume. I mean, honestly, I've only been betting sides and totals like 3 to 4 picks a week in NBA. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, just even two or three plays a week for me in the NBA. Very low volume, especially this time of the year, Ben. You got the trade deadline, so much stuff moving around. You don't know who's going to be playing for who. There's so many late, last minute injuries and things. It's just, that can really hurt. You hate to have a bet that you think is pretty much already lost when it tips off. So, I try to stay low volume in the NBA, and also we don't have lines the night before much at all like we do in college basketball, so that makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and we can kind of just dive on into it. I mean, actually, it's funny. DraftKings just popped up a few, and we're using the unabated odds screen, which is a new tool that they dropped, and I like it a lot. It gives side-by-side comparisons, and it's pretty easy to use. So we're going to use that kind of as our guide for today. But yeah, I was going through some of these before we hopped on, and one thing that kind of popped out to me with this Chicago Bulls Charlotte Hornets game is the total at 234.5 is pretty high. I mean, anytime that we're looking at a total over like 232, that's pretty high. But I like to say, Kyle, it's probably high for a reason.
Yeah, the Bulls have had some weak defense here of late. They've had injuries to some of their key defenders. Their defensive numbers in recent games are really bad. I mean, very bad. I know Caruso is a really good defensive player for the Bulls. This is a Bulls team that earlier in the season looked quite a bit different than they do here of late. If you just look at their last few games, the Bulls are 27th in the NBA in defensive efficiency in the last 10 games. So the Bulls are really struggling defensively. And, as far as the tempo, Ben, Charlotte's going to push it. They run for sure. I wouldn't want to bet an under. I'd hate to bet that under.
Yeah. That's one of those that I could actually see moving up, even though 234 and a half is pretty high. I was just trying to see if this is anywhere else, but no, it looks like that's one of the only totals on the board for that game specifically. And then it's funny, we hop on right to the next one, Raptors Thunder 208. So conversely, it's way low. Anything on that very low one?
Totals wise, I don't have any real strong angle on that. I do think the Raptors are better than most people realize at this point. More people are starting to get onto that. They have played much better here of late. I think they're a well-coached team. Toronto is a team I'd rather be betting on than betting against here going down the stretch. I think Toronto is a pretty good ATS team here going forward. As far as the total, I would want to take it under, but 208 in today's NBA is awfully low, so I think I'd pass.
Yeah. And then two others that we can just touch on real quick, just because they're more marquee of teams. Warriors on the road against the Jazz, -3, showing a -3.5 for the Jazz, which is interesting because the Warriors have been playing pretty good ball, but Donovan Mitchell is back, I'm not sure which way that line moves. I'm really not. What, do you have any thoughts there?
Um, you know, I don't know. The Warriors, I'm high on the Warriors upside. The Jazz, regular season, they're a good team. Playoffs, it's a different story usually. Uh, this isn't a game I'd be interested in betting. I'd rather watch this game than I would bet it. So I really don't even have a lean in this one.
Yeah, same here. And then the last one, the Lakers. The last thing I saw is they were down
Yeah,
in the
bad.
Bucks game. Which if you're betting on the Lakers, I mean, you have to have some sort of I guess something that's making you feel that way because they've just been so inconsistent. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with that team, and they're on the road against a Blazers team who moved some players. So I think that number, Kyle, at -6 could move up to -8. Of course, one of the things you risk with these overnight numbers, it's very hard in NBA because of the way, like you mentioned earlier, with the turnaround, or not turnaround, sorry, the announcements of people being ruled out. So it makes it really hard to try to get an edge. But I would say if everyone is ruled in, I think that number could move to -8. That's what I personally think.
Yeah, Ben, I think this number will move up. I think we will get Lakers action on this one. Now, do I really like the Lakers? No, I don't want to bet the Lakers. So, as far as if I want to put my money on the Lakers, I don't. I do think the line will move up, though. I mean, the Lakers are getting beat by 22 points against the Bucks here, and we know the Bucks are a good team, but the Lakers have some major problems. I mean, obviously Westbrook's one of them, but he's not the only one. They got some major problems. I don't think they'll be fixed overnight either. And LeBron's tremendous, but the team in general, not nearly what people thought it would be.
Yeah. And someone asked a question about the Raptors, the -9, 9.5. I don't really have too many strong opinions on which way that's going to move. I could see it maybe getting to 10 or 9. It's hard to say with the road spot for them. Anything there, Kyle?
I would lean playing Toronto minus the points. As the question insinuates, I would lean toward the Raptors there. As far as what the line will do, I think it's probably going to stay pretty similar to what it is. If anything, though, I think it's more likely to go up than it is down, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So Kyle and I would say our bread and butter is college basketball, and there's a lot of games to discuss tomorrow. So that's what we're gonna that's what we're gonna do for the majority of this stream. I didn't count how many games there were, but I was talking about this with someone else, Kyle. It seems like a few years ago, like Tuesday was the day minus Saturday for college basketball, but it seems now it's kind of split between Tuesday, Wednesday. You still there?
It broke up a little bit there. I don't
Oh,
know. I didn't catch the end of what you said
oh,
there.
my apologies. I said it seems that now like Tuesday, Wednesdays are kind of split for college basketball when it
Mhm.
usually used to be just Tuesday was like the day.
And Thursdays are busy days now too. So I mean, you have the light days Monday and Friday. You got the huge day Saturday, obviously, and then you kind of split it between about three days in the middle of the week. So I was a little surprised there were this many games up for Wednesday tomorrow, but we have plenty of games to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'll see if anything comes through the chat, but we can kind of just scroll through each one. I think that would be a good use of our time. So there's an early one, which always gets attention, being the only game at 3 p.m. my time, I think 5 Eastern. I believe these are Eastern, or sorry, Mountain time, so 5 your time. But Columbia Cornell, high total there, 157 is a pretty high total for a college basketball game. And one thing I want to point out with college basketball, especially totals, this is where you're going to see the most significant of a line move with a total, especially a high one, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if some of these numbers move 3-4 points. I mean, it's a higher number, so there is some more variance. But in college basketball, Kyle, I mean, you would have to say like that's where we typically see the most line move.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, especially on the totals. The sides can move a little bit, the totals can move a lot more. Usually you see the low totals get bet up, the high totals get bet down. More likely a total sitting 157 and a half or 157 gets bet down and then maybe back up again. But some people just blindly bet unders on the really high numbers in college basketball. As far as this game, Ben, I'm no Ivy League expert by any means. It's probably my least favorite league to bet in college basketball. I do know Cornell is playing really fast. They're third in tempo in the country. I would lean to the over if I had to bet this game. I think it might come down a bit. So if you like the over, I think you might want to wait a little bit here.
Yeah, that was a really good point with the high totals, right? Like if you like that number under, you probably should jump on it. I mean, that's just typically how these things kind of happen. But I agree with the Ivy League. I haven't watched a lot of the Ivy League this year. I need to watch more of it. So maybe this is a game I probably should watch. But it could get out of hand with the spread around 14, 15 and a half, which is interesting, right? And we'll see this a lot with college basketball as we run through these. Like WinBet has this as at a 14 and a half, but you can grab a 15 and a half at a few spots. So definitely not a surprise we'll see discrepancy in some of these. But yeah, I think that's just a good one to kind of highlight to get things started. What about this Georgia-Florida game? We have Georgia coming off a pretty good performance last Saturday, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, they come up just short against Auburn. You could argue this is not a great spot for them coming off that. Then Florida is shorthanded right now. They come off an overtime win at home, a 62-57 game in overtime. So crazy low scoring game, really slow pace. Yeah, Ben, I don't know what to do with this game either. So I'll pass on this. There's going to be ones that I have stronger opinions about going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I know the Georgia-Florida rivalry is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, but I don't think they have the same for for the hardwood. But yeah, it's always interesting, Kyle, to see like how these rivalries transfer over to college basketball. Some of them don't, some do, but SEC, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's kind of scroll through some of these. If you see anything on screen, we can talk about. I mean, one that pops off to me is the Ohio State Rutgers game, and I know you're going to have at least a few thoughts on that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Ohio State basketball, obviously, I'm a Buckeyes fan. People who don't know me, big Buckeyes fan. This weekend, a huge Bengals fan. Always been a Bengals fan my whole life, and that's the big thing this weekend. I'll take an Ohio State loss here if it means a Bengals win on Sunday, Ben. But it'd be a nice trade-off.
Yeah,
it'd be a heck of a trade-off. I think Ohio State is what they are. They're not great defensively. They have some pretty good shooters, pretty good offense. Rutgers is a good team at home. I wouldn't want to bet against Rutgers in this game. In fact, I would lean toward Rutgers plus the points. I don't know where this line will move. I think 3 is probably a pretty good guess as to where this number will be. So we're sitting at 2.5 or 3 range right now. I think that's probably a pretty good guess. But if I had to bet this game, I would either bet Rutgers or maybe the under. Rutgers has done a really good job of slowing games down, playing very good defense at home. 136.5 is a bit low for an Ohio State game, but those are my leans in this one.
For this one, it's interesting because Rutgers is coming off of that big win at home against Michigan State, and we always hear about the rack, and I agree. I mean, it's one of the toughest places to play, but I think at a certain point, it's in these players' heads, but I mean that is part of it, right? With playing at a tough environment, but I am a little surprised that this didn't open at 3, maybe because I do think Ohio State is the superior team. But I could see this moving either way. I really could. this is one I'm probably not going to touch, and I like your lean angle there with the under. I think that makes a lot of sense. So going through some of these others, a lot of Ivy League, Patriot League tomorrow. We got Army, Boston, Cincinnati, South Florida, Lehigh, Colgate. Anything with those three?
So, Ben, I think the Cincinnati South Florida total will get bet up a little bit more. We see a 123.5 there at MGM, 124 at Caesars. I think those will all go up to 125, 125.5. All these really low games get bet up. There might be buyback tomorrow, but South Florida games have been bet up time after time, even though most of them have been low scoring. So, I would lean to taking an under as far as the bet here, but I would wait to bet that to try to get a 125 or higher there in that one.
Yeah, and I would say about 90% of the time that will happen. These low totals get bet up, but when IUPUI is playing, I don't know if there's a number low enough. People are going to still blindly bet the under, but so with unabated, for example, Caesars that just moved from 123.5 to 124, which is pretty cool. And you can also click in specifically to a book and see the line move. Man, 121. I don't know if that was right. Let's see here. I'm just curious about Pinnacle, but yeah, maybe this got bet up.
Yeah, Ben, I just want to say that, South Florida games, a really good strategy is to hit the opening line over and then bet back the under and get about 5 points middle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having 5 points middle in a 121 and 126 situation. We've seen the same thing with like LSU games lately. All of those are going to get bet up blindly across the board. So it's something for viewers to keep in mind going forward is that if you like the over, you want to hit it right away. If you like the under, you want to wait.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've done that successfully in college football as well. When you get a total in the 38-42 range, you can definitely take advantage of that. So what about Xavier Seton Hall? That was one that a few people have commented and asked about.
So I would need to know if Bryce Aiken's playing for Seton Hall. I think Bryce Aiken has been out for a long time. I don't know that there's any update as to whether he'll be playing. I know Seton Hall isn't even close to the same team without him as they are with him. Having said that, how much do I really want to bet Xavier in this game? Xavier hasn't really done anything that would make me feel really confident about them, especially on the road. They did win at Butler and at Creighton. Both those teams are kind of down. I wouldn't want to lay the points with Seton Hall without knowing if Aiken's coming back. I think he's too important to that offense. The under is my lean as well if Aiken doesn't play. They've played slower. Their defense is still very good. They're 25th in defensive efficiency in the country. Offense can be hit or miss, especially without Aiken. So my lean would be Xavier there and under.
And that's a good point with injuries. I think that you should never try to just speculate if it feels like 50-50 because I've done that before, Kyle, and it seems like more times than not I'm wrong.
Yeah, those hurt.
Yeah, they do. And then you're in a position and your pants are down. So what about these are two interesting ones out of the ACC: Wake Forest, NC State, and then Louisville, Notre Dame. Any thoughts there?
So I got nothing Louisville, Notre Dame, but Wake Forest, NC State, that total is going to come down a little bit here. We see some of the offshores already coming down. If you like an under, you see 152, 152.5, some of those. Probably go ahead and take one of those numbers now. You see the Bet Online number. I guess it's gone down 2.5 points. Yeah, pretty significant move there. I don't know that I agree with that line move. I think Wake Forest has been really impressive offensively all throughout the season. NC State's playing slower than some people would think, so maybe that's just a numbers grab with that kind of total. But I don't really like the under, but I think the number will come down.
I do agree. I could see it getting to maybe a 150.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Louisville, Notre Dame, 7.5. I could see that number moving, Kyle. It seems a little high, but Notre Dame at home, Louisville, just, they're inconsistent. I could see that moving to 8.5.
Possibly. I mean, you wonder if Louisville
Like,
has, enough to play for. I mean, what this season's kind of shot for them, I guess.
yeah. Guess it has moved. It was at 8.5. It's moved to 7. And that it is one book bet online, but it is, I would say they're a little more significant than a DraftKings as far as their college basketball lines. But yeah, that's an interesting move right there. Scrolling through some of these others, get some Horizon League. Anything with some of these, I guess there's some Patriot League, Oakland, Youngstown State. Oakland's a team that has looked pretty bad the last few games. I don't think they've covered a game in the last 4, and then I think they're 3-4 outright. Kind of crazy to see them only laying 3. I know it's on the road, but Youngstown State, they I mean, they didn't cover against IUPUI. We'll put it that way. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oakland's a confusing team to me. I don't feel like I have a good handle on that team. At this point, Ben, when I see Oakland, I pretty much just pass on that game immediately. I don't really know what they are. And if you're mid-February and you don't really know what a team is, I feel like that's a good one to just stay away from. Youngstown State's been kind of up and down as well. I do want to highlight one that's above that there, Vermont. Vermont's been an absolute machine on offense lately, Ben. I mean, they are just pouring in the points. And you think of them as the team that's usually been an unders team in the past.
Yes.
But they're averaging 1.28 points per possession. I mean, they are just torching, just absolutely on fire. Their point totals, I'll just read through their point totals here. How many points they've scored in games: 98, 86, 83, 82, 80, 81, 73, 90, and 78. They've been going over team total overs easily. I mean, they're going over these team total overs with 4 or 5 minutes left in some of these games. Now, this one's going to be fairly high. It's a blowout game. I wouldn't want to bet the under. I'll say that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting with Vermont. I bet them a few times earlier in the season, and they were playing at such a slow pace. I forget the game they had, but it was like in the 40s. I think one team cracked 50. But the offense started to kind of click later on in the season here. And I mean, 17.5, it's a large number, but I could see that moving up a little bit too.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go down. I'll say that. It's either going to go up or not really move. And the only way I could look there is laying the points or taking the over. It sounds square, but that would be my lean.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting matchup too for a mid-major, Detroit, Robert Morris. I think 2 teams kind of near the top in there in the conference there. Any thoughts on that one?
I mean, Detroit's all about whether Davis is making his threes. He takes so many shots.
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's taking a lot of tough shots because he kind of has to. I mean, he has 202 threes attempted on the season, Ben. That's insane. The fact that they have as many games left as they do, and he's already taken 202 3-pointers. And that's not really a knock on him. I mean, they need him to be really good. And he is a very good player. But the problem is, if he's making everything, this team is, a tremendous bet. If he's missing everything, then they're a great fade. Do we know what he's going to be in this game? The only thing I can say is Robert Morris is really bad at defending the 3-point range, 320th in the country in 3-point defense. I would lean toward Detroit in this game. It's just not something, it won't be a play I make, but that would be a lean for me.
Yeah, and the number is interesting because you do see a 2 on the board at DraftKings, a little juiced up at -120, but then you see, I think, a 3.5. I thought I saw a 3.5. Maybe not, but 2.5. Okay. It's 2.5. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that one. I mean, you make the point there. It's if he's knocking down shots, they can win by 8-10 points. But if not, I mean, this could be a Robert Morris home win. Absolutely. So scrolling through some others here. Let's see if anything kind of catches my attention. Same with you, Kyle. If you see anything, just let me know. A lot of smaller conferences
Houston SMU
here.
is a good game there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Seven, six, 6.5 at MGM.
Houston is a really good team. I think Sampson's a tremendous coach. They play really well defensively. SMU and Houston have had a lot of really good games over the years. I just think that this version of SMU is pretty far down compared to some of the others. I know they have a good record. SMU has played a pretty weak schedule so far this year. Houston really should win this game by some margin. Houston's number one in effective field goal percentage defense. I would guess that this number will get bet up. I don't know where this one opened. I see there's anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a really good point to touch on. And I made this point on last week's show when I did this for the first time, live streaming this. And I've noticed with BetMGM and some of their numbers, they won't move until maybe 6 a.m. Eastern time a lot of times, especially in college basketball. So, for example, this 6.5 is probably the only 6.5 you can find in the market on this game. And we can see Bet Online and some of the other books 7.5. And I think this was at 6.5 earlier in the day. So I wouldn't be surprised, by tomorrow morning if every book has a 7.5 and maybe some 8s. So this 6.5, if you're playing closing line value, I think that could be a pretty good bet right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And as far as the total, I mean, Houston's good at dictating with their defense and playing a pretty slow pace. SMU wants to run, so it's kind of one of those pace wars. I like games like this. Houston would be my lean there. And I mean, if you can grab a 7 or 6.5, I think you'll probably be in good position tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Going through some of these others, trying to see. I know the Baylor one is one maybe we could touch on tomorrow at Kansas State. -6, totals at 135.5. Think that might move either way?
I would guess the total will move up a little bit, but not significantly. The side, I don't know what to think on the side. I think the side's probably about right. Baylor's been kind of disappointing here of late. They were so good for a long time. Baylor hasn't really been knocking down those shots like they were earlier in the season. Just kind of pulling up Baylor's stat profile here. This Baylor team has struggled in transition defense, but I don't really know that Kansas State's the team that's able to take advantage of that. Baylor, once they get their defense set up, they're 8th in half-court defense efficiency. I think Baylor comes off that blowout loss to Kansas in that last game. I think this is probably a better spot for Baylor than it is for Kansas State. I think I'm talking myself into kind of liking Baylor in this spot here, Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a few 5.5s on the board too, so could be worth a look. Yeah, I mean, I think Baylor, if they play like we expect them to, they should win this game by 7, 8+ points. So now hopping into some Missouri Valley Conference, which has been a really fun conference this year. I mean, there's a few pretty good teams. I'm curious how many teams they could get in. It's always hard to speculate because at the end of the day, it's decided by a few people in a room. So my guess sometimes can be as good as anyone's. But anything with these 3 games on the board here?
Yeah, the game that stands out to me from those is Missouri State and Drake. Missouri State's a good team. I think they might be a bit undervalued by some people. I believe there might be some 3s out there. Maybe if you scroll there, we'll see if there's.
Yeah.
I think Drake is favored by 3 at a couple, or at least it was a little bit ago. Bet Online has 3.
Yeah.
So I think Missouri State +3 is a decent look in this game. And the other lean I have in this game is the under. 143 is a high total for a Missouri Valley Conference game. And neither of these teams play really fast. The problem is they are both good at offense, but 143 is a pretty high total. And the first time they played was pretty far below that. If I remember right,
Yeah.
the game was what was it, 5-point game or something? Yeah, 61-56.
It was yeah. And the total, I mean, in that game, 139. So we're almost getting a higher we are getting a higher total than the first matchup, and they went well under it. That's interesting.
Drake's had some high-scoring games of late, which I assume is what's led to that. But I mean, they've been against Indiana State, who plays really quick, Northern Iowa, who's scoring a lot more this year. I would think that, and in fact, I think the under is one of my favorite ones that we've looked at here so far today. Just as a numbers play, I think under 143, 143 and a half at MGM. So yeah, this shows too the importance of shopping around. We can see a point and a half difference here.
Yeah.
And we know how often that matters, Ben.
Yeah, too many times. If you don't know, you will
Absolutely.
find out. So that's why it's always important to line shop. But yeah, 143 and a half. I'm not going to overthink it. I think I actually might bet that, or even a 143, depending on well, if it's still there. I mean, I have access to Bet MGM, so I might as well. That's interesting because down to 142. So I would not be surprised if this is closer to 142, 142 and a half across the board tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think this one will drop.
All right, let's take a look at some of these others. We got about 10 more minutes here. A lot of SEC games. SEC is a conference that I haven't bet a lot this year, and just traditionally, I just kind of stay away from it. I don't know why. If our model says something with one of the teams, then that's fine. But as far as like personal handicapping, I haven't done a lot of SEC handicapping, but anything with some of these, and then there's some other Big 12 games near the bottom here.
Tennessee, Mississippi State. I saw a comment about that game. Tennessee, a team I'd like to fade at the end of the season. Rick Barnes' teams play good at the beginning of the season, tend to slide at the end of the season. I don't know if we're far enough along in the season or if we have to get to March for it to be a great fade or not. But
Yeah.
but Tennessee is kind of banged up too. So probably +1.5 on Mississippi State is my lean on that one. And I don't have anything on the total. I will say Alabama games, the totals for me are really hard because Bama takes so many threes, play so fast. Their defense is not as good as they were last year. Last year, they could win with that elite defense. This year, they're really not playing very good defense. That's why they're not near as good. Mississippi is shorthanded as well. But yeah, Mississippi State, I think, is a pretty good spot for them. Tennessee's won quite a bit lately. Mississippi State's lost 3 of their last 4, a couple of them being close games. You would think Mississippi State would give a big effort here.
Yeah, I think at home, I think was that Kiev mentioning Mississippi State? Their splits on road versus home are pretty drastic. I believe that was Mississippi State.
Yeah, absolutely. Mississippi State's had some terrible splits on the road, but at home they've been very good. They continued that last weekend, especially shooting, only getting to 55 points against Arkansas. So, yeah, I think Mississippi State probably a good look there in that one, and I wouldn't be surprised if that line moves toward them.
Yeah. One I just wanted to touch on is Georgetown DePaul. And the reason why is Georgetown obviously has had a pretty bad down season. DePaul isn't, in my eyes, a great team, but they're getting 8 at home. I don't know if I have enough, to bet a Georgetown +8, but it does seem like a lot of points. And I don't know if you can call it an overreaction because it's been a slew of games. Any thoughts on that one?
Man, this one is this is a tough one because you look at the one side and you say, I don't want to bet that team, but then you look at the other side and the line and you definitely don't want to bet that one. I mean, Javon Freeman Liberty's been hurt for DePaul. He hasn't played like the last 5 or 6 games. DePaul laying 8 points without their best player. If he doesn't play, I would have to hold my nose and bet Georgetown in that one. I really don't want to, but that would be my
Yeah.
strong lean.
Yeah, that's a lot of points for how they've looked this year.
Definitely.
But I mean, they've covered several games, but as a dog. So I would have to look a little deeper into how they've performed as a favorite. But that's an interesting one. So near the bottom of the board here, a few good games though. Near the bottom. Well, actually, maybe not one in particular. I guess Texas Tech, Oklahoma, but some of the others, good teams. Not so much the other team, but Texas Tech, Oklahoma -3 across the board, 127.5. Another low total. Anything there?
I think this total will go up. So if you like the under, I'd wait. If you like the over, I'd go ahead and take 127.5. I would think we'll see a 129 or something like that here tomorrow at some point. So that's what I think about that one. I think I would lean to the under. So I would probably wait and want to take the under if anything. But Texas Tech to me, Ben, looks like a pretty complete team. I'm impressed with their way that they're playing. Their offense is better than I thought they'd be. Their defense is still tremendous. Oklahoma has been a little bit more inconsistent. 3, I mean, I'd probably lean Texas Tech, but if it gets much higher, I'd probably stay away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another low total there, and then few other lower totals in these late night games. A 131 with Bradley Loyola, then we have a 134 Cal, Oregon State, and then San Diego State, San Jose State, minus 14.5, but a total of 124.5, which is no surprise because I think Kempom and Bart Torvik have the Aztecs as the number one defensive team. So that kind of explains that number because San Diego State's probably going to put up points, but San Jose State, I don't know if they crack 55.
Yeah, this is one where for San Diego State games, it's really hard because San Diego State actually plays fairly quick. They don't stall by any means, but they're not good on offense. They're great on defense. San Jose State, I don't want to bet an under that low in this game, even with the numbers liking it. I will say my number is lower than this, but I'm not anxious to bet the under here. I'd want it to go up several points. I do think it'll probably go up. It's one of those that, when you get 124, 124.5 or something, probably going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this one will probably go up. We see Bet Online already showing 125.5 over juiced. So I think that's probably going to be across the board coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one to probably wait on too. Yeah, 125. If you can get a 126 somewhere, that would be a good spot because I'm with you there. I think my lean definitely is under in that spot. I mean, I've seen San Diego State. They play very good defense just across the board. You're not getting any easy shots, and San Jose State is a team that they chuck up the 3 ball. If they can hit a few, it could go over, but the way San Diego State plays around the perimeter, you're not going to get easy looks. So I definitely lean under there.
Yep, agree. As far as the games right above that, I'm a little surprised Bradley's getting 4.5 or 5 points from Loyola Chicago. I need to look at the injury report and see if there's anybody missing from Bradley's team. This is one where Loyola is coming off a big win against Missouri State. Is this a bad spot for them? Possibly. This number keeps getting bigger. I would be interested toward Bradley. I think this will be probably a fairly low-scoring game as well. Right above that, Ben, Minnesota and Nebraska, boy, an ugly Big Ten game. The Big Ten's really good, but the huge Big Ten games were tonight, I guess.
Yeah, they left the other ones for Wednesday. So that's about it. I guess we had 2 that kind of really caught our eyes as far as, ones that are more, hey, bet now. Let's recap those. I think the one for me, Kyle, was that Houston at -6.5. If you can find it at 6.5, but even at a 7, I could see that moving up to 7.5 across the board. I'm trying to find that. Let me do a Control F here. And then the other one, I think you mentioned, there it is. Yeah, so 7. And then I think the other one you mentioned was that under in
Drake.
Was it Bradley? No, it was Drake. That's right. Drake, Missouri State. And that's 143. I think we saw 143.5 unless it moved. No, yeah, 143.5 at Bet MGM, but 143, which in my opinion, at 143, I still think is a pretty good number, especially if we just kind of base on how these two teams played each other. Um, I may look a little deeper into this one, but it seems like a pretty good under spot.
Yeah, I like the under in that one. A couple others I'll throw out that I think will move, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that I would like it. I did say I think Cincinnati, South Florida will go up some more, and then I would be looking to bet an under. Hopefully, we get another point and a half with Cincinnati, South Florida. And then as far as the other ones that might move, um, Memphis seems to is people want to keep betting Memphis. I don't know why people want to keep betting Memphis at this point. I don't want to bet Memphis, but
I don't want to
that
bet
line probably
Memphis.
yeah, that line probably goes up. Maybe an over there in that game. I could see over being a decent look at 146.5. And Memphis is not really that good defensively, and they kind of street ball, play really fast, transition. Uh, Tulane, much better on offense than they've been in recent seasons. So I could see
Mm-hmm.
the over being a decent look in that game. A couple others, Ben, real quick. Um, yeah, I kind of think that the Wofford and Sanford game, I think I must have missed that one going by when you were scrolling through. But yeah, Wofford and Sanford's come down quite a bit on a total. I wonder if this one's going to get low enough that I might be able to bet an over here. I think Sanford's a good over team. Wofford is kind of back and forth. They're good offense, but they play pretty slowly. If this number keeps going down, 145 on Bet Online, I would be interested in an over on that one.
Yeah, I've watched both those teams play a few times. Be an interesting matchup. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Sanford can win this game, to be completely honest. But I'm gonna have to think a little bit more about that and see what our model says about that, because usually our numbers run. Uh, Actually, they're almost done, but gonna take a look at that one. Any others that you wanted to highlight before we hop off?
I think pay attention to Seton Hall about Bryce Aiken's status. I think
Mm-hmm.
Aiken is really important to that team. If Aiken is definitely out, Xavier +4 might be a hold your nose and bet it type bet for me, and or the under. The under could make some sense in that one as well. So I kind of like Mississippi State too that we mentioned. So those are a few of them that kind of stand out to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of hold your nose, Georgetown +8.5. I'm gonna wait on that
Yeah.
one, but I'm definitely gonna write it down, and we'll see. That could be one where I may try to jump in live if DePaul can get off to a quicker start. We'll see, but yeah, that'd be an uglier one. But sometimes, Kyle, the ugly, hard ones to make bet wise are some of the better ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And that'd be one of them where I think there is some line value there, especially, you get up to 8.5. It's quite a few points. It's just one of those games that you want to grab the points and then make sure you don't watch the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Check the score maybe once or twice, and hopefully
Right.
you get a win there. So, all right. I think we're going to call it there, Kyle. I appreciate you hopping on. It's fun to, kind of dive deeper into this analysis, because a lot of this isn't as public on, doing it in real time, which I think there's a lot you can take away from it, whether you even bet any of these or not, right? Just the way to kind of read the market, because at least for me, that type of skill took me, I would say, 5 years to even get a hang of, and I'm still trying to master it.
Yeah, but that's a really important skill. I mean, understanding the market and seeing where the bets are going to come in and trying to get the best price is so crucial. I feel like, I have weaknesses as a bettor, but one of my strengths is the marketplace and following which teams are likely going to get bet, which teams are going to get bet against. We see the market, over and over say, I want the over on this team, I want the under on this team. You can kind of predict the line move a lot of times ahead of time, and getting the best line is really important. You want to try to do the best you can with that, definitely.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's good to see these, at this point in time, and then tomorrow morning or maybe later in the day, you look at them again, and you can start to see some trends, and you start doing it over and over. Yeah, I think grasping the market is something that it's a skill set a lot of sports bettors don't have because it does take a lot of work. And I think for college football, Kyle, this would be really fun to do with you too. Also,
Oh yeah, college football, early week. I'm betting a lot of those early week games in college football, getting down on those totals early in the week and seeing line value for later in the week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I see a comment down there. Scrunch wins. This has been great insight. Thanks for saying that. I enjoy doing this too, Ben. This was a little different than a lot of others where it's straight picks or just
yeah,
analyzing one game. So
yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure. And I think that
unique.
was my goal. Yeah, with these, and I think numbers wise on a stream, naturally you're going to get lower numbers than like we're talking about a specific game or the slate because people want more actionable stuff. But I think the people who do tune into these, it's good insight. You're going to get a lot from it, and it's going to help you make better picks in the future too, as well. So I appreciate you hopping on. Um, Anything you want to plug? I know there's a sports wagering news heating up. I know you have a class coming up, right?
Yeah, definitely. Sports Wagering U. Follow at Sports Wager U on Twitter, on TikTok as well. Which Ben, I just got my own TikTok, and I'm going to start doing some of it reluctantly. I have to say, I just
you'll
feel like
you'll
I
get the hang of it.
yeah, reluctantly I'm doing it. Ben's already got that down and got it figured out with the big following. I'll get there at some point as far as at least doing it, but yeah, Sports Wager U is going to be a lot of fun. Ben's going to be part of that as well. We've got some stuff coming up with classes there. We're going to have a free college basketball class on February 22nd, so it's only 2 weeks away. Uh, Time's flying. March Madness not too far away. We'll give you a lot of free insight there in that class. So definitely check that out. And follow me at Kyle Hunter Picks on Twitter. You can also subscribe to my YouTube, Kyle Hunter Sports Picks, and my website's huntersportspicks.com. Thanks for having me on, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question was just about the Baylor game, Kyle. I think we were kind of consensus there. We would probably lean Baylor if we were to bet it. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, I want to look at the game a little bit more. I haven't really had a chance to look at this game, but it strikes me as a pretty good spot for Baylor. In fact, uh, what they lose by 20 some points last game,
Yeah.
and shot quality says they should have lost by like half a point. So I mean, they got really unlucky with the quality shots and just not making any of those shots that they usually make. So you would think that regression, we'll see some positive regression sometime soon for them.
Yeah, this could be a good one to play that angle with some regression. I
Yeah.
definitely think that Baylor could be a play for me. I'm going to look at it a little more, but we'll see what happens in the morning here. So, Kyle, thank you once again for hopping on. It's been great, and maybe we'll do this again another time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, guys. See ya.